Hey everyone, welcome back. This is Mandy. I'm going to do a Houston Astros tumbler. So depending on when you see this, they just won the World Series and this was a special request for a Christmas gift. I did not come up with the idea for this design, so don't think I'm that creative. So to prep the cup this far, I spray painted the cup white and then I taped off the bottom, sprayed the top navy blue, and then after that dried, I taped along the blue line. And basically on the bottom section of the cup, we're going to do a wood grain. So the first alcohol ink we're going to use is Butterscotch from Ranger. I do have a wood grain tutorial way back in my videos somewhere. I'll try to remember to link it in the description box if I can remember. But essentially when you do wood grain, the way I learned it anyway, because alcohol inks kind of can react with other alcohol inks and they can cancel out the color underneath. So I do one layer of color and then I use a flat clear spray paint in between. And I use Krylon crystal clear for my clear coat. I find it's nice, really flat, clear, works really well, dries really fast. So that's what I do. It doesn't mean you're not ever going to have issues, but it works pretty well for me. And that seals your layers. So before you do the next color, you have a nice layer in between. So the alcohol in one level of color doesn't interact with your base layer and mess up your color or cause your colors to interact and bleed. So pretty simple. After this first layer, I just set it aside and I did the second color. So now this is after that clear coat has dried. So the second color I'm going to put is Ginger from Ranger. When I do peekaboo wood grain, peekaboo meaning you have some sections, or basically what would be your decal would be lighter than your outside. So let's say you wanted to put your name on a wood grain tumbler. So let's say I wanted to do Mandy. So after I do my first two initial colors, I would put a temporary decal on. I'm not in frame, sorry. And I'm just basically just putting that on with a little sponge brush. Not difficult. You don't want to overwork it. If you overwork it, it will streak. Anyway, after these two colors is when I would apply a decal, like a temporary decal, let's say temporary vinyl, and then I would use two more colors if I was going to do a peekaboo wood grain, and then I would take the decal off. So the decal would show the lighter and the whole cup would show the outside. So I have done those before, just in case you're new to doing wood grain. So you can see even with my attempts to protect the first layer, we still had some streaking and the white on the bottom came through. So that's going to happen with wood grains. It happens quite often. It's super annoying and I have almost ruined cups from it. So my best advice is if that happens to you, let it dry and then just lightly, I think I'm going to mess with it right now. Just lightly get it with a little bit of color. The trick when it gets white like that is you can't put too much color or it will get worse. So where you're tempted to overcorrect, just don't. Just don't. Trust me. Get it in another layer. So that clear coat is dried. Second clear coat. So now the third color we're going to use is caramel. If I was going to do a peekaboo, my fourth color would be espresso, sorry. But I'm not going to go that dark. I want this to be kind of a caramel brown on the bottom. So anyway, whoever came up with this idea originally, shout out to them because it's a super cute idea. But I got this request for a Christmas gift. So I'm actually making two. So I'm just kind of showing you one. So we're going to do the same thing. And I've sped this up like a bunch. We're going to do the same thing with the caramel. If you are doing wood grains and you find your colors are starting to pool too much, like you have too much ink, move away from that section and let it dry a little bit. That way you don't get too much moisture on your surface and pull on your design. Alcohol inks are so easy and fun to work with, but there are little nuances that make them kind of difficult. So anyway, sorry, I feel kind of scatterbrained, but there's so many things like I want to tell you because I've almost ruined so many cups. So anyway, after we apply the caramel, we're going to do one more quick clear layer, and then we're going to take the tape off. That's between the wood grain and the blue. And then we're going to decal. So we have a Houston Astros decal that's in orange and white. And then we have some baseball stitching that's going to go between the navy blue and the wood grain in orange vinyl. So I'm using Oracal 651 vinyl. I'm not going to get into a whole bunch of detail about how to cut vinyl and all that. There's other fabulous people who do that. I just wanted, since I was already going to make this tumbler, I thought it would be a great opportunity to share it with you guys. So what you'll find, and I'll just tell you ahead of time, you see I'm fixing a part that kind of messed up. It's hard to tell, but sometimes if you get too much ink on the surface, it like goes through to your, I'm showing you the difference between the caramel and just the ginger. It's pretty subtle, but anyway, sometimes if you get too much ink, it pools and it goes through to the white. So it's super annoying. So as I take the tape off, which you'll see in a minute, even though I taped it pretty well, some color seeped underneath the tape onto the blue part. And I thought that was terrible because you wouldn't believe how long it takes to try to tape up a straight line on a curved cup. And I didn't want to have to do it again. And so I decided to try to use alcohol to get the ink off because alcohol inks react to alcohol. So it should help me remove the alcohol. So you'll see me briefly try to show you that. What you also may have not seen me do just a second ago is I touched up that one spot that I messed up a minute ago, which is what I'm showing you there. It really doesn't look too crazy, but so you see this brown that's on the navy blue. I tried to get that with 50% isopropyl alcohol. It didn't work. So I used 91%. And that worked more or less, but it did take some of the blue off a little bit in some places. So I sprayed a little bit of that spray paint on that plate and I dabbed it back on with a sponge brush. So that's what you see me doing here. It's not ideal, but under resin, after everything was decaled and all that, there was only one part that peeked through and showed some minor stuff. Not brown, but it showed basically a lighter section of blue, but it wasn't really very noticeable. So this to me was a much better solution than taping everything up again and respraying it and running the risk of getting blue spray paint on the wood grain. But these are very real frustrating issues that happen when you're making tumblers. If you're just getting started in making tumblers, this is why you kind of need to charge people for your time and you have to kind of charge what it's really worth because it's so hard because you want to be sympathetic, but then there's so much work and so many things that go wrong that you just really can't anticipate, and they sometimes take hours to fix. So here's our baseball stitching. So I first put it on thinking, okay, I can do half the cup. Nope, that didn't work. So I end up having to cut almost one of those little triangles at a time to try to keep a straight line. So not ideal. I sped this up about 10 times. If I was really thinking straight and I wasn't pressed for time, which I was extraordinarily pressed for time to get this done in time for Christmas around my final and everything, it would be really smart to to resin this first before the decals. What you saw me just fix just there was my transfer tape pulled up a section of my wood grain and completely exposed the white, which hardly ever happens, right? But had I resined this first, that wouldn't have been an issue. So instead I decided I just needed to fix it. So it kind of worked out because these cups were for a couple and there was no distinguishing thing between one person or the other. There's no name on the other side or anything. So that place where I messed up and I end up fixing it sort of looks like a wood knot. And so I told the person who ordered them, I was like, maybe this will help them distinguish them from the other. So, we'll call it a happy accident. So what happens the first time is I didn't measure this decal small enough, and the first one would not go on without going bananas. Even this one is having a lot of issues, but I got it on. And then here's the other part. So anything circular, my best advice for you if you're doing tumblers, just make it a little smaller, because especially if you're dealing with a curved cup, which I think are so much nicer looking, it's so hard to get the circular surfaces on. So the white part was the easiest part. So I'll show you a close-up next. All right, everybody. So here it is. It has 2 coats of liquidy split from KS Resin. I have a coupon code for KS Resin in the description box below. Liquidy Split is a fast setting resin. So I was able to put 2 coats on yesterday and now it's fully cured. So it's ready for its new home. I think it turned out pretty cool. I didn't show you the resin process because most people would be very bored by that, but let me turn off this light so you can just see it under the flash of the camera. But I think it turned out pretty cool. So you have to let me know what you think in the comments below. Again, I did not come up with this idea originally myself. I just went with a picture that was given to me. So anyway, I hope this tutorial was helpful for you guys if you're considering doing something yourself. This is that one spot that I kind of messed up, so I just made it look like a wood knot. But yeah, hopefully the person who ordered them will be really happy. I'm going to sand these tops and clean the inside with acetone, and it'll be going to its forever home. One thing I will say, if you use liquidy split, you should not use alcohol to clean things. It takes away some of the shiny surface. So I always give my customers something that says to only clean with like Dawn and water or just water, because most people would not think twice about using alcohol to clean a resin surface, but apparently with fast setting resin, it doesn't always work out. Anyway, thanks for joining, and let me know if this tutorial was helpful for you guys. Okay, bye.